It's morning here. Hey Tablenauts family, this is Doolin and I have a special video for you guys today. It is now freshly 2022 and I have already played 16 new to me games that didn't release last year because we're talking about those in a specific other video and I already want to talk about them. So I decided to make a single elimination tournament bracket and we're gonna go through all of round one today, talking about really all of the games, but mainly the ones who lost. I don't want to clue you in too much on my thoughts on the winners. And that is because I'm going to give you guys a chance to fill out what you think my choices will be the rest of the way through. These are the games that I prefer over each other, and you'll slowly figure that out as it goes on. So after this round, if you want to enter to win the game that wins the whole thing, you need to join our Discord, which is a link in the description of the video, and then find the section that we're talking about the tournament, fill out your own bracket, and then put it there before next week, and that will be Thursday, January 26th, 2022. If you get your brackets in time, you've entered your chance to win, and my guess is that there won't be like hundreds of you, so you have a pretty good chance, especially if you think you know me well enough. So without wasting any more time, let's get right into the tournament. I ranked these based off of their BGG rating, which, you know, I don't hold a whole lot of weight to. However, you know, hundreds, thousands of people have voted on these, and this is the consensus rating plus some modifiers that they throw in to make sure that brand new games with like 3 ratings aren't the best game ever. So, first up is the 1 seed versus the 16 seed. This is Gone Sean Clever versus Tranquility. This is a roll and write versus a cooperative card or tile. I'm not really sure, I've only played it online. I'm thinking that they're actually just cards, not tiles, placement game. Again, I don't want to go too much into the winning one, just know that it wins over the other pick, and we'll talk a little bit more about the other. And I'm actually picking Tranquility over Gone Sean Clever. This is gonna hurt a lot of people who love Tablenauts, and I'm really, really sorry about that. I love Gone Sean Clever. I enjoyed my time with it. I even have played it, oh my gosh, specifically on the app 100 times. I'm not even sure how much, but that's because it's so easy to play. You play over the course of maybe 2 to 3 minutes, and then you can play again. I love the way, maybe more so than any other roll and write I've ever played, that one table that you're filling in interacts with all the other tables and causes this popcorn effect that's really, really nice. However, every person I've talked to that loves this game also admits a huge fault that it has, which is it's very solvable. Sure, you're relying on dice rolls and the luck of that, but once you know the proper strategy, it's not just choose any column to go for, it's choose this specific pathway if you want to win. And I don't really like that about a roll and write. I think that if you have a game like this, it needs to probably be, I guess, fair in terms of choosing any path and all of them being viable options. I feel like rounds 1 through 3, if you don't set yourself up well, you've lost. Either way, it's a great game, and just know that Tranquility I rate higher than Gone Sean Clever. Next up, we have the 8 seed versus the 9 seed, which is Shards of Infinity at a whopping 6.78 on BGG versus Deep Sea Adventure at a 6.75. These are, I mean, like, that's a 100th of a decimal, very closely related in their ratings. I'm not going to go too much into the winner, but I will say that Shards of Infinity is better, and so it's going to move on. It is a deck building game very similar to Star Realms and some others that I've played, but it's better than Deep Sea Adventure, which is the second game from Oink, and I played this one recently with Max and Emily, had a really fun time with the idea of the game. It sounds a lot more complicated than the actual gameplay, which is just rolling a dice and moving along a track and then deciding whether or not you want to pick up a treasure or not. But essentially everyone shares their oxygen, and you got to decide when the oxygen tank gets low enough whether or not you're going to turn around and start heading back with the treasures that you have. Other people might have more treasures than you, but you have to decide whether or not they are even going to make it back in time, and if it's even worth paying attention to them anymore, because my goodness, now the oxygen is at 10 and below, and there's no way you're getting back. This is a press your luck, easy to learn, easy to teach game that I've enjoyed, that I think easily could hit the table, especially with people who aren't so much into games, but love just rolling dice and making that do I keep going, do I not type of choice. So once again, Deep Sea Adventure is getting knocked out by Shards of Infinity, and just know that Shards of Infinity is better than Deep Sea Adventure to me. Next up is our 5 versus 12 seed, and this is Camel Up at a 7.12 on BGG versus Strike at 6.3. Now don't get this game, Strike, confused with other games called Strike. This is simply the game where you throw dice into the middle of this like Coliseum-like thing, trying to hit other dice and make doubles or triples or whatever, so that you can pick all of those dice back up and make your friend roll all of their dice, and hopefully none of their dice are doubles or triples. Camel Up is this silly racing betting game that I've really enjoyed. We're not going to talk about that too much because Camel Up is going to move on, because I think it is better than Ravensburger's Strike. That being said, Strike is fantastic, and if you're looking for a good party game that again is a simple press your luck game where you're just trying to chuck these dice into this middle and hope that you rumble them all enough that all of them flip over to something that is helpful to you, and my goodness, now all of them are out of the middle and you're making that next person roll all of their dice. It's just such a unique and simple but so fun and rewarding game. You don't have to be good at dice rolling at all anyway. I mean, I guess if luck is actually a like stat that all of us secretly have like inside of us, then maybe you'd be really good at this game. And to come to think of it, Emily and I won like 5 games of this in a row over Max and Danielle, so maybe luck does have something to do with it. And Emily typically does win a lot of, wow. I wonder if that like unlocks new dialogue choices like in Fallout. Anyway, just know that I really like this game and I still had it eliminated to Camel Up. So Camel Up is gonna move on and face the winner of the next round, which is the 4 seed versus the 13 seed. This is Fantasy Realms, the 4 seed at a whopping 7.16 on BGG, and also Nocti Luca, which comes in at a 6.27. Fantasy Realms is a card drafting game, kind of. You're doing set collection in your hand, but you start the game with all of your cards. You have a full hand before the game even starts. And over the course of it, you're going to basically be trimming away the cards that you absolutely don't need and pulling in ones that you do. I'm not gonna talk too much about this game though, because it wins over the 13-seeded Nocti Luca for me. Nocti Luca is still a really good game by Shim Phillips, and it doesn't look anything else like my other Shim Phillips games, but I've enjoyed the times that I've played this. It's a very unique looking game where there's sort of a giant hexagon with a lot of tiny little hexagons in between, with a whole bunch of dice that are colorful and translucent, and they're thrown all over the board. These represent little jellies inside the small pool that you're trying to save. You're gonna be collecting them, putting them into jars in specific color order, and then setting them aside to score points later in the game. The way you collect them though is by placing a simple little meeple that you have for your, I think they're meeples, color on the board, on the edge around the pool, and then scoring in 2 directions a number that you say. Not scoring, but collecting the number that you say. So if I place a meeple on the side, I can say 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 or 1, and then I'm gonna pick up all dice regardless of color, and emphasis on all, and then trying to fill the 2 jars that I have in front of me. It's a unique puzzle because you definitely don't want to not collect enough dice to fulfill one of these, because having 2 partially filled jars off to the side is not going to be great for you next round. But then if you take too many, all excess dice get passed to the players around you to just put in their jars, because you're not gonna just throw them back in the sea. You're also not just gonna murder the jellies, because that's horrible. By the end of the game, whoever has the most points based off of their specific jar scores, as well as a hidden color that they've been trying to collect all along, is going to be the winner of the game. If you enjoy Sagrada, I think this game is right up your alley. There is some obvious differences in the game. However, the way that you're using dice's numbers to collect and then place on their colors kind of gives me that same vibe, as well as maybe the game Bees, if you're aware of that one but don't like the way the bees move around the board. This is also similar in nature to how you score and play in that. So just remember, Fantasy Realms over Noctiluca. Noctiluca is still an amazing game. Check it out. We're gonna move on to the bottom half of the bracket. This is the 3-seeded Micro Macro Crime City versus King Domino Duel as the 14 seed. Micro Macro Crime City has a whopping 7.26 on BGG, and King Domino Duel has a 6.14, a full 1 point gap between them. I will say that Micro Macro Crime City has been a really cool, unique, Where's Waldo crime solving game experience for myself and Emily. But I'm not gonna talk too much about it because it does win for me over King Domino Duel. King Domino Duel is the little brother or sister to the big box, well, not even really big box, but you know what I mean, game King Domino, where you're drafting these domino pieces to fulfill a board state that will hopefully score you a whole bunch of points with multipliers like the crowns in areas of your kingdom. King Domino Duel is not that different, at least in that part of the game. You're going to be collecting or drafting dice based off of 4 of them that will roll. It's a 2-player game only, so each of you will have 2 dice and they form, guess what, a domino. That domino you're gonna draw on your kingdom. And unlike in King Domino, where you can kind of just throw pieces wherever you want, probably not a good idea anyway, because it won't score you a whole lot of points if they're not touching similar ones. In King Domino Duel, they have to have at least 2 of them that touch and match, and you can't just throw any of them anywhere. You even have something similar to the crown system, which are these little bubbles, and those are gonna multiply all of the effects at the end. I also really enjoy those little bubbles will get you closer and closer to bonuses that you can fill in after you hit them, and you're racing the other person for those bonuses. So if you might not need a very specific crown thing, but you definitely don't want them to have it, so another added element of hate drafting comes into play in King Domino Duel. Great game, still doesn't surpass Micro Macro Crime City, and I'll explain why in a future video. I hope I'm clear that like the reason I'm doing that is because I just don't want to give you guys too much insight into my picks, because I don't want to make filling out this bracket easy. Anyway, we're gonna move on to the 6 seed versus the 11 seed. The 6-seeded Downforce is gonna go up against the 11-seeded Set a Watch. Now, Downforce is this betting racing game similar to Camel Up, but maybe a little more emphasis on getting your specific color to win the game, and a lot more control over how all of the cars, rather than camels, move around the map. Then there is also Set a Watch, which is this D&D dice manipulation, card management, beautiful RPG that I'm not going to talk about much anymore because it is going to upset the 6-seeded Downforce. Now Downforce, this was a tough matchup, and I didn't want to say that, but I felt like I needed to, because I loved Downforce. I hated that these two had to go up against each other. Downforce is such a unique game in the sense that Camel Up gave me this amazing feeling of betting, and what Camel Up does well in its party betting mechanics, Downforce does well in its strategy racing mechanics. And while betting is still a central theme of it, and you're gonna have to manage how much you use at the beginning to draft cards, and then also as the game goes on, maybe change who you're gonna bet on based on what your friends are doing with their bets. It just makes it way different than a normal racing game, say like Formula D, which is a game that's sit on my shelf for a very long time. So Downforce, I'm really sorry because I really do like you, but you're gonna lose to the 11-seeded Set a Watch, and just know that I think Set a Watch is better than Downforce. We have two more, and we're gonna go fast. We have Stuffed Fables with the 7 seed and New York Zoo with the 10 seed. Stuffed Fables is at a 6.98 on BGG, and New York Zoo is at a 6.65. Stuffed Fables is another plaid hat game, and I think it's second by Jerry Hawthorne right after Mice and Mystics. This came out. You're gonna be taking these cute little stuffed animals and defending the night against the nightmares in this little girl's dreams who you belong to. Think Toy Story meets horrifying nightmares. So maybe just Toy Story because of those creepy things in Sid's room. Anyway, I'm not gonna talk too much about that one because I do put it over New York Zoo. Another two tough ones to really rate because I loved New York Zoo. New York Zoo is this, it's not really drafting because you're moving this piece around, but there's a little bit of drafting involved in terms of which out of the 3 that you're able to reach are you going to pick up. Anyway, you're picking up puzzle pieces and trying to fill in your board, and that's pretty much it. You're going to put pieces down, you're gonna fill them up with some animeeples, and then if all of the animeeples of a specific type fill up a puzzle piece, you get to draft from a larger pool of other puzzle pieces that anyone can pick up if they finish those specific tiles. The game moves pretty dang quickly, and while there's not a lot of player interaction, I did find that what my friends were doing was very important for me to watch as the game went on, because they're gonna give me ideas of where I can put pieces later. This game is very, very fun, and if you are a puzzle fan at all, or really just any type of polyomino style game fan, this one's a must try for you. So once again, no, New York Zoo, great game, go check it out, but Stuffed Fables I rank higher than New York Zoo. And then the last two that we're gonna talk about is the number 2 seeded Obsession at a 7.29 versus the 15 seeded Fuji Flush at a 6.14. Just know that some of these games, I think that the reason that they're rated so low is because there probably isn't a whole lot of ratings for all of them. I don't think a lot of these weren't a 6 or 7. A lot of them are 8s for me, at least. We're gonna talk about Obsession first. Obsession is this uniquely themed, I don't even know how to really describe it other than kind of card drafting, kind of engine building game where you're trying to win the favor of different people in, old-timey England. This is gonna give you feelings of Pride and Prejudice meets that one TV show on Netflix I'm blanking on, Bridgerton. But while the theme is very, very clearly worked on, this game is still solid at its core and its mechanics. So much so that I was blown away that I actually enjoyed it as much as I did because I didn't really like the theme all that much. Sorry to all of you guys out there, you have Max, Danielle, and Emily on your side. It just didn't hit for me. But the mechanics of the game pulled me in. Again, don't want to talk about it too much because it does win over Fuji Flush. I played this only at 4-player with Max, Danielle, Emily, and I, and it's so simple. I loved how simple it was to teach, how simple it was to get ready, how simple it was to play multiple rounds of this game. Everyone just continually plays cards, kind of like competitive war, where whoever has the highest number out there gets to stay in. And honestly, it doesn't even matter what the person to your right has just yet, because if I played something lower than the person that just played before me, I don't get knocked out by them. My chances of getting knocked out by the person after me. So it's almost like horse, if you've played the basketball game horse. I'm comparing it to a lot of things, but just know that this game is very simple, very mean, and very fun. So just know Obsession over Fuji Flush, blah, 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 blah. So just know Obsession is better than Fuji Flush for me. However, Fuji Flush, still an awesome game. So that leaves 8 seeds left. We have what's left: Tranquility versus Shards of Infinity, Camel Up versus Fantasy Realms, Micro Macro City versus Set a Watch, and then finally Stuffed Fables versus Obsession. We're gonna do a video next. I'm gonna start filming the video next week after Thursday and hopefully get that one up by Tuesday, which will be really close to the 1st of February. Remember, you need to get all of your picks in by January the 26th. And just a reminder, the winner who gets all of the picks right and if multiple people get it right, then I will draw a name, obviously. They're going to win whatever game wins the whole tournament from me. And it won't be my copy because obviously I'm gonna wanna keep it, but I'm gonna get you a brand new copy. So that's all for today. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Dang it, it's cold. I shouldn't have waited so long. See you guys next time.